see that thing?
Yeah.
Pretty clear, isn't it?
Yeah. Which camera's on?
Are we ready?
Thing I shaved.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our regularly scheduled or special meeting of June 6th at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll.
Charlie Davidson,
Here.
George Glover,
Here.
Ben Saucetta,
Here.
Charles Schwenke,
Here.
Tom Jones, George Capps, Brandy Bailey,
Here.
Jim Schrader.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And Councilman Capps notified me tonight that he was feeling ill tonight and wouldn't make it. So our thoughts are with him. We'll start with our invocation by Councilman Glover, and our pledge will be led by Councilwoman Bailey. Please rise.
Let's pray. Father God in heaven, we pray for wisdom, guidance in the sermon, and doing the will of the people of Park City tonight. We pray for our city employees and also our citizens. Please provide help with any needs they may have. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, we'll start with approval of the agenda. Ben
So moved.
and Charlie.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve the agenda by Ben, seconded by Charlie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We have no awards or presentations tonight, and nobody has signed up for public forum. So we will move on to staff reports. Sean? Nothing on that. All right, we'll get right into business then. Consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Charlie?
I move we approve consent agenda as printed.
Ben?
Second.
Okay, seeing no other discussion. Motion by Charlie, seconded by Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, we'll move on to item 5, new business. Discuss and consider approval of the Owens Second Edition, a final plat for property located north of 61st Street North between Kerman and Longmont Streets.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Russ Avey, Subdivision Administrator. We heard earlier this year a zone change and vacation case on the subject property. It's a 1-acre site just in front of the church to the northwest of the city administrative building. Planning Commission at their last regular meeting approved the final plat for what is being called Owens Second Edition to make way for an auto parts store. We've been working with O'Reilly's over the past year on this project, and the Planning Commission recommended approval 4-0. And I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Ben?
Yeah, I'm excited to see this project move forward with the progress that's been made over the last little bit. So I would make a motion to approve the final plat as presented.
Jim?
I'd second the motion.
Okay. Tom? I was going to second it. Okay. Have a motion by Ben and seconded by Jim to approve it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Russ. Item 6, discuss and consider approval of a contract with Enterprise Fleet Management for 2 police vehicles with installed equipment and 2 administrative vehicles. Chief.
Mr. Mayor, council members, this evening I have 4 vehicle acquisitions to bring before you for consideration. At the May 23rd meeting, you approved the purchase/lease of 2 Ford Patrol vehicles. And at that meeting, I mentioned that I would be coming back at this meeting for some other vehicles for your consideration. On average, the police department has replaced 2 patrol vehicles every year, sometimes more, sometimes less, but on average 2. The 2 vehicles that were just approved were replacements for the vehicle orders that were canceled in 2022. So that was basically playing makeup for the vehicles that we didn't get last year. We're now proposing to acquire 2 Dodge Durango SUVs to be used as patrol vehicles. These are intended to replace 2 Ford Explorer patrol vehicles in the fleet that have exceeded their age and mileage limits. Both of them are, they're 2015 and 2017, both over 100,000 miles. The Dodge Durangos were unofficially ordered by the dealer at our request in 2022, and they have now arrived. Enterprise Fleet Management has submitted contracts for these vehicles that are based on a cash fund model. This essentially means that the city will be funding the purchase up front as opposed to making payments and paying interest. The price for each Dodge Durango with the installed vehicle equipment is $61,062.93. The cost of the installed vehicle equipment is $17,442.93. The combined cost for the two Dodge Durango patrol vehicles and the equipment is $122,125.86. There's also a $400 service charge per vehicle that's due at the end of the contract. Enterprise Fleet Management will charge a monthly fleet management fee of $91.60 per vehicle. That fee covers such items as consulting, which includes monitoring the market for the best time to sell the vehicle based on its condition, the value, and the existing market at the time. It also includes using Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative for the pricing of the vehicles, and also includes the handling of new vehicles, the purchase, the picking up, delivery, taking them to the upfitter and then back to us again, which saves us a significant amount of time. Staff recommends approval of the two 12-month lease purchase agreements with Enterprise Fleet Management for two 2023 Dodge Durango SUV patrol vehicles in the total amount of $122,125.86 plus a monthly fleet management fee of $91.60 per vehicle per month. And Enterprise will be paid from the vehicle replacement fund. Moving on to the Chevrolet Traverse administrative vehicles. Staff also recommends the approval of two 12-month lease purchase agreements for two Chevrolet Equinox SUVs. One Traverse will replace an unmarked 2011 Ford Fusion. And I didn't make a note in here, it's actually replacing two vehicles. It's also a 2013 Ford Explorer that has 92,000 miles. It'll replace both of those, which will be sold. And the police department's been using those for things such as trips, sending officers to training out of town, out of the area, and various administrative purposes such as we make fairly often trips to the KBI lab in Topeka to drop off and pick up evidence. The other Traverse will replace the 2018 Ford Fusion that's used by city administration for various trips. This includes the city council, the governing body in general, bank runs by staff virtually every day, going to training and things of that nature. The delivered price of each Chevy Traverse is $35,435.21. A $400 service charge per vehicle is due upon lease termination. The monthly rental for each Chevy Traverse is $745.42, which calculates to an annual sum of $8,945.04 per vehicle. Enterprise Fleet Management will continuously monitor the market value of these vehicles. At the end of the 12-month lease, the city may choose to dispose of vehicles or renew the leases. The resale value of the vehicles will be essential in determining the overall cost of ownership. The city can purchase these vehicles at a price that is significantly lower than the non-government price. Past and present market values indicate that the used vehicles will likely sell at a price point that will result in a low overall cost of ownership and may offset some or all of the annual lease payments. So the bottom line is it is dependent upon the resale value and when it's sold, which is going to determine the overall cost of ownership. Staff recommends approval of the two 12-month leases with Enterprise Fleet Management for two 2023 Chevy Traverse vehicles with a monthly lease payment of $745.42 per vehicle. Expenses will be paid from the vehicle replacement fund. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Charlie?
Yeah, just so, Chief, just so I'm clear, so the two Dodge Durangos, we're paying cash up front, so there's no lease fee, and then there's the management fee of $91.60, but we're leasing the Traverses, so there's no management fee there. Is that correct? And why the difference?
The main reason is police vehicles tend to be driven, pretty hard. And so the resale value is not there not even close to the same as what it is for a civilian vehicle by the time it's ready to be disposed of. So there's the big difference between the lease and the cash fund model, which we're doing with police vehicles.
Okay.
We don't expect to get a large amount back on a police vehicle when we sell it. Now, Enterprise will maximize our return. They have a lot better market to be able to sell vehicles, and they watch the price of the market value. But with the lease, you're looking at what have you paid for it over the course of the lease, and then you have to compare that to what are you going to get back for the vehicle when you get done. The way things are right now, with the resale value, we're looking at a resale value that's probably going to be either very close to what we paid for it, or it may cost us hundreds or a few thousand, but it is dependent upon the value, the market value. But this is where other government bodies, many counties and cities across the country have found that this model works for them.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I
Thank
hope
you.
I answered your question, sir.
Yeah, you did. That makes sense.
Ben?
Thank you.
So the two Chevy Traverses, they're replacing a 2013 Ford Escape and a 2011 Ford Fusion, is that correct?
They're both Ford Fusions.
Okay,
Yes, sir. The one's a 2011, the police department vehicle is a Fusion, and the 2018 is also a
okay.
Fusion.
I don't know how I got 2011 out of it somewhere.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. And I added that comment in, so I'm sorry, it's not in your
Okay, no, that's fine.
your
I
written
was-
material. There's two police vehicles that are being replaced, the 2011 Ford Fusion and the 2013 Ford Explorer.
Okay,
That's the one I didn't.
okay, and
Have
then there's
it
a
back.
2018 Fusion, the
Yes,
white
sir.
ones out there and everything. This is, the first portion of it, I completely understand and see where you're coming from. The second part, I don't know, are those vehicles paid off currently? The ones that we have that are ours?
They are, yes.
So
Mhm.
the 18 Fusion, do we know? Is it actually needed to be replaced? A 5-year-old vehicle, is it worth an $8,900 a year vehicle?
Yes, sir, it
Okay.
is. Again, the philosophy behind this is the fact that right now it's a 2018 and it has very low miles. So when they go to sell it for us, we're going to get probably a much better return rather than driving it until it's not ready to be, or doesn't have much resale value. So the Chevy Traverse, if you take a look at that, and it is a different model than the police vehicles, like you said, those get rather hard driven. But on the Traverse side of the house, that's MSRP, a sticker price of somewhere around $45,000. But we're getting it for $35,000. So we are only paying the monthly fee of $745, which means over the year, we're gonna pay roughly about $9,000. And in the end, the calculated book value that Enterprise has for that vehicle at the end of the lease is $29,000. But what they're trying to convince us is at the end of that 1-year lease, there is probably a very good chance that they could sell it for more than $9,000 over the $29,000 book value. And if they do that, then we've driven that car for a year with virtually no cost other than just to pay for the gas. Does that make sense?
Yeah, again, I'm not a gambling guy,
Well,
and I don't
Nor
prefer,
am I, and that's the reason why we have kind of started off very slow with Enterprise, to sit there and say, there's a proof of concept. I think every one of us, or at least council, when this was first proposed, is very leery of doing this, but they're gonna want to earn our business year after year after year, so they're gonna have to prove that this model is sustainable.
I don't disagree that they're gonna wanna earn our business. Obviously, we're going from paying nothing right now to now actually paying for something with the chance that we could get it all paid back. I get that there. But in the meantime, they'll reap the benefit of having business. We're buying something we don't need. That's, I guess, my question.
No.
We don't need to replace our 2018 Ford Fusion. we might have a better chance to make a little bit more money maybe right now if we play it out over a year-long time and everything. I just don't see us needing it. And that's what my question really is why are we gonna spend $9,000 on payments for a year?
But I think is what he was saying, and is we can get rid of a 2018 vehicle and pay to buy a brand-new vehicle, lease, and then after a year, sell it and have nothing in it.
Theoretically.
And
Theoretically.
yes, sir, the
That's
other,
my point, is
theoretically,
this
and
is
that's,
theoretic.
that's on him to get us that deal. And also theoretically, yes, on the 2018, it is paid for right now.
Yeah, and my point
Let's
is that I
drive it
don't
in-
feel like we could blame him in a year from now if the market changes and then we don't get the return on it. My point, I guess, is that it's kind of hard to put him on the spot or to put anybody with enterprise on the spot and say in a year you're going to guarantee this. Or we're not going to be happy. We're already leery, is my,
Well, yes, sir, there are absolutely no guarantees, no doubt about it, but that's part of the reason why I believe council elected to even start heading down that is based on their reputation and the reputation of the other communities and school boards around the state that have all sat there and said, we've looked at it, and this is a model that makes sense to us. Now, back to the 2018, that yes, it is a paid-off vehicle, we don't need to do that, we could drive it another 10 years. If you drive it another 10 years and it's only worth $1,000, well, then there is a cost to doing that because now you're back trying to buy a vehicle that's $35,000 and replacing that whole entire cost. So, like I said, you're getting rid of it now at this point in time where you have a chance of still getting a much better than average return on that investment because it's still relatively low miles, good shape vehicle. So they all feed off each other and it's cyclic.
I get it. And I know I'm in the minority on this and I adamantly disagree with this. I mean, just smart business there. So I just wanted to, and so, yeah.
Thank you, Ben. Tom?
Well, I was kind of on the same track as Ben. That 2018's probably got 15,000 miles on it, maybe.
Okay?
Chief, do you know how many
And so
miles?
We're,
No?
Yeah, I don't know what the current mileage is on that, I'm sorry.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
a little bit.
Please. Okay.
I'm not making sense,
Well, yes, sir, you are. I mean, those are natural questions. That's the reason why we have Justin. And if he'd like to come to the podium, and he knows exactly how many miles are on the 2018, but.
and then they didn't drive it.
Okay.
Let me address a couple things for you, Mr. Jones. So first of all, you're not crazy, right? What this process is different than the traditional buy and hold method, correct? Which is you buy it, you run it into the ground, you sell it for whatever it's worth, right? So that 2018 Fusion, it has 7,500 miles on it right now. When we evaluated it in December at the start of this, it had 5,200. And we put a resale value of 18.5 on that. We were gonna be able to sell it for 18.5. Right now, we're looking around 17 to 17.5, because the market has declined, as you said, right? It's all supply and demand. The used market is coming back down to earth, right? Ben, to your point, that's why we want to sell that vehicle now, is to get you the maximum value based on what the market is doing. So the market is still stronger than it was pre-pandemic, but it's coming back down to earth. The longer you hold that vehicle, the resale value declines, and you're also putting miles on it, diminishing it, you're paying maintenance, all of the degradation essentially of that vehicle, right? So in this case, we're saying we have a Chevy Traverse, it's a $42,000 vehicle. with your government buy, your incentives, you're getting it for 35, right? We're gonna sell the Fusion for 17.5, so that money comes back into the fund. And then the Traverse itself, after a year, you make 12 months worth of payments of $8,900 essentially. It's on the books for 29.4. We have a resale value, conservative value of 35,000 that we think we can sell that for. So essentially, $4,040 is your total cost to operate that vehicle over the course of the term. Now, mind you, you've got 17.5 from the Fusion in that pot that is offsetting any of that cost, right? I would personally, based on what I have seen happen, we're gonna sell that for the Fusion for more, and we're gonna sell the Traverse for more. The last thing I wanna do is come here and promise numbers to you that don't happen. To Mr. Fox's point, our goal is a long-term partnership. We're not here to sell you, I'm not a car salesman, I'm not here to sell you a car, right? I'm here to help you with the strategy of how and when you should cycle these vehicles. That's ultimately what the consultation is that I provide to the city is how are we going to execute this fleet replacement strategy? And how do we do that most cost effective? In this case, with the current market, it's to sell the Fusion, get the Traverse in, and flip that Traverse when we can get another Traverse. They are not owned, correct, yes, it's a net of 4,000, yes. It'll be $8,900 in lease payments. We're anticipating about $5,000 back in equity, based on what you've paid down, so, yes. Sure, yeah, and there are some capacities where based on mileage patterns, I will recommend that you don't have a car in that specific segment, right? So this specific city trip car, I think, has a necessary purpose, even though the mileage patterns are low, so it is a tool that you need from what I've seen, but there's definitely a mileage threshold where if you're not doing more than, 3,000 or 4,000 miles a year, I would come to you guys and say, hey, we probably don't need a vehicle in this capacity. Yeah. And so that would be a conversation, didn't
we we have another position in there now, that we need another car? Am I thinking of something else?
We just, the first vehicle that we did with Enterprise was the new pickup truck for the building official,
yeah.
for the building inspector, the new position for there.
These are detective cars, right?
One of the Traverses is to replace actually two of the police vehicles that the chief mentioned. One is a Fusion and one is
The Escape.
the Escape.
And the
So-
detective vehicle? Would this be a detective vehicle that the Traverse is going to?
Neither one of them are detective, because they're a trip vehicle.
Okay.
Essentially, we have two that we've been using in that role. Really, the 2011, we haven't been using very much at all for the last couple of years because it's not in very good shape. The 2013, the other one, that's a decommissioned police vehicle. It's got 90-some thousand miles on it. And that's the one we've been using as primary trip vehicle. And it's worn out.
Which also gives them the opportunity the two vehicles are similar in style or make and everything. After 1 to 2 years or 1 year, if need be, hold on to it and flip the two. So that way the Traverse that's got more miles, which has been the trip car, is the one that you're getting rid of. But even though the lease is set up for 12 months, that is not a guarantee that automatically in 12 months, that's when we're automatically going to flip the vehicle. It will be predicated on what the market brings and his recommendation. That is now his job to advise staff rather than us watching car markets and prices and everything. That's part of the monthly fee that we'd be paying for their professional advice to sit there and say when is a good time to hold on to it or to sell the vehicle. And sir, it's a good question because most of our vehicles, other than the police vehicles, you will find yourself in that every year. if they're recommending that everything get replaced on a one-year basis, we're gonna have a whole bunch of cars that we're gonna sit here and tell council, this is only a one-year-old vehicle that's got 7,500 miles on it, and we're recommending that you trade it in so that we can go get another brand-new one and do the exact same thing. But that would be the recommendation that he's going to make that shows us the best resale value for the one car that we do have at the time.
Good? Charlie?
I don't know, I've been in favor of the model when I listened to it the first time. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I think, not only am I thinking about, the vehicles that they need, but also I've worked and been in some pretty jankety vehicles, and how it's not good for our employees. Now, I know one of them's still pretty new, but I think, I'm gonna trust the model, and I wanna let Enterprise show us that, they can benefit us and benefit a long-term partnership. So, I'm in favor. I just wanted to share that.
Charles?
I think there's a couple other things that probably factor into this. One is the 2018 is not under warranty anymore, you know, and if we get a 2023, it'll be under full warranty. And that could produce a savings, you know, maybe, maybe not, you know. The other thing is the models that we've selected, the Traverse over the Focus. If you're looking at a vehicle that I want to put somebody on the highway, you know, and send them down to Topeka or wherever, I'd much rather have them in the Traverse vehicle. It's a little bit larger, a little bit more solid vehicle than a Ford Focus. And I think that's worth something to us too. I understand how this can work, you know, and it's a gamble in the fact that it may not be 100%, it may not be 90%, it may be 110% coverage on a thing, but we're not gambling with a whole lot of dollars, you know, in this if it doesn't work out to the optimum, you know. So I'm in favor of doing it.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in? Charlie?
Oh, go ahead, Chief.
Mr. Mayor, this is not a direct comparison, but I remember a number of years ago when the Highway Patrol changed their whole fleet program, and they began to trade police vehicles away at 50,000 miles. And that was a program that Missouri was the first in the nation to start, and Kansas tried a number of times to do that, and it was a similar issue because I mean, my perception as a citizen, I can remember you'd go to the gas station, somebody'd say, well, I wish I could drive a new car like that, you know, and then you'd have to explain to them, if we sell these cars at 50,000 miles before it rolls over, in fact, that's when the value dropped. They had to have some cash to start that program up, but once they got it started, the thing has run well for, I don't know what now, 20, 25 years probably. But it was very difficult to kind of get to that concept, and I understand where that is. And when it comes to leasing a vehicle, I personally would not, and this has been the stumbling block for me, I personally would not lease a vehicle. But then when I understood that this is a different model than what you or I would go to the dealership and lease a car, it's entirely different. And it's all based on the resale value. It does cost us to take a car to 2018 and let it sit. Every year the value is going down, so it is actually costing us not only the maintenance, but the equity is dropping each year. And this is what Enterprise has done, is figure out this whole model so that it works. So I just thought I'd offer that. Those are some thoughts that I had as I kind of worked through this process.
Thank you, Chief. Charlie?
I was just gonna make the motion, I make a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to finalize and execute a contract with Enterprise Fleet Management for 2 Dodge Durango vehicles plus installed equipment with the total cost of $122,125.86 plus a fleet management fee of $91.60 per vehicle per month, and 2 2023 Chevy Traverse vehicles that will have a monthly lease payment of $745.42 per vehicle for 12 months to be paid out of the Vehicle Replacement Fund.
Thank you. George Glover?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and second that for discussion. I I'm all for enterprise. I've leased vehicles from you guys before. The thing of it is the warranty issue for me. If you get a new vehicle, it's still under warranty. We don't have to worry about the older vehicles and what we might get when we flip them back to you guys and what you might get in resale value. Those monies that go back in, where do those monies go when you guys try to sell those?
They go to the vehicle replacement fund?
So is there much in there now, or is there something that we sit on, or just something we use towards the enterprise thing?
And that was something that council had some concerns with when we first brought this up, because over the past couple of years, council has made a dedicated effort to fully fund the vehicle replacement plan. So we have money in the bank. We could tell enterprise to go away and just buy all our vehicles from here on out. And that's why most of the time, the communities that opt for this type of agreement are they're a little bit behind the eight ball and going, how are we gonna afford all these vehicles that we need to? And this gives them a very good opportunity with very little cash down. We have elected to keep the money in the vehicle replacement program, so that way, in a year, year and a half, 2 years, if it doesn't work out, then we could easily sit there and say, thank you very much, but here are your vehicles back, we're done. Let's go buy our own vehicles and we're back in that business again. So the fund is still there and it's fully funded. So like the 17,000 or 18,000 that he talks about, the 2018 Ford being sold, that will go back into the vehicle replacement plan.
Okay, I like having those monies available to us in case this doesn't work out.
Yes, sir.
So I'm in favor of this.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, sir.
Tom, Ben?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull a Tom here. I am gonna support this, and the reason I'm gonna support this is because I believe the first two vehicles are paramount to get for the police department. I still am adamantly opposed to the second part, but for the sake of our police department, I'm gonna vote yes.
Okay. Seeing no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. That was motioned by Charlie and seconded by George Glover. Thank you, Chief. On to item 7, discuss and consider changes to the 2023 street rehabilitation program. Gina.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I am here tonight with an item to discuss and consider changes to the 2023 street rehabilitation program. You're currently getting a copy of the PowerPoint that was in your packet. I'm not going to follow it identically, but we'll go kind of in the same order. So on January 10th, a modified recommendation was approved by the council, which primarily included a process of 2-inch mill and overlay to occur on north, south, and east legs of the new roundabout on 61st Street, as well as on East Parkview and West Parkview. The plan also includes Nova Chip on 85th Street from Broadway to I-135. However, during a recent ground inspection, staff discovered unfavorable conditions for West Parkview, which eliminates the possibility of a 2-inch mill and overlay on that section of road. Staff began working with the city engineer to develop specs for a full depth reclamation with a cement injection, also known as super slurry. The FDR process pulverizes the existing asphalt, mixes it into the road base, and injects it with the cement slurry for a total base stabilization depth of 8 to 10 inches, which gets topped with 2 inches of new asphalt. The end result gives you a stronger base, recycles a non-renewable resource, making it a greener approach to road work, and gets the road open quicker than the traditional new construction methods. However, new construction is an alternative option to the FDR. Both would be from inside of curb to inside of curb, just so you would understand that a full reconstruction would not put new curbs into that street. New construction can take a little longer due to the haul out of old materials as well as the haul in of new materials, but both processes are great. Both provide you with a brand new driving surface, leaving the biggest differences to be your cost and your maintenance requirements. Staff believes the best and most responsible approach would be to bid the FDR, but to add new construction as an alternate bid option. In your PowerPoint, your packet materials, You will have seen 3 options, 2 of which I believe allows us to stay within our existing budget for the Special Streets and Highway Fund. And these are in no particular order of preference. Option 1 utilizes the original $400,000 that was set aside for the entirety of Parkview and focuses it solely on 2/3 of West Parkview, stopping approximately 425 feet short of Kingman Street. This option would push East Parkview into the 2024 street program. Option 2 utilizes the original $400,000 set aside for the entirety of Parkview, as well as utilizing $75,000 of the $150,000 intended for contracted sidewalk improvements in order to improve the entirety of West Parkview, or approximately half of the horseshoe. The key to this option being balanced is the shift from sidewalks being contracted out to instead being done in-house for 2023. We believe our staff is able to install approximately 2,000 feet of sidewalk, and your packet includes the proposed sidewalk locations. Your first location proposed connects the Grove Parks to a developer-initiated pathway being constructed as early as this year. This joint effort creates a connection through the subdivision to Hillside. The second location proposed is a connection that starts up right outside of City Hall here, heads to the west on 61st Street before turning south onto Hydraulic. The solid orange line on that representation is the stopping point for the 2,000 feet. From that point, you'll see some dashed lines. Those are just some conceptual path that we're working through some logistical issues on, but have a few ideas for another joint effort to help accomplish more of the entirety. With option 2, if the preference is to continue contracting sidewalk improvements and to do the Parkview improvements to the halfway point, this would require an additional $75,000, which is unbudgeted and unidentified in funding. The last option, option 3 in your packet, it reflects FDR or new construction improvements to the original entirety of West and East Parkview at an approximate cost of $950,000, resulting in $450,000 of unbudgeted funds. I've simply provided this option in your packet to show the financial issue we have with doing all of Parkview in 2023 as originally promised. With some additional research and testing, we may be able to get that number down by utilizing a 2-inch mill and overlay on East Parkview, but that is currently undetermined at this point. If we were able to do the 2-inch mill and overlay, that would bring our approximate cost down to $700,000, resulting in a $300,000 gap. I've also provided you with updated estimates of the remaining projects, which are unaffected by our discussion and potential amendment tonight. There is no action needed for these estimates, as I simply just like to use them to emphasize that a good street program is a fluid process, which will need to be adapted and reformed to fit the actual needs and constraints of the current situation. So I know I've kind of run through this a little fast, and I've provided quite a bit of information, but I do stand for any questions or comments you may have.
I have a quick question. We do have, I don't see it in here unless I'm just missing it, 61st Street between where we've done the, kind of the median area that's had to be redone a couple times from there to where the bridge project started. Is that included in one of these? Because I'm pretty sure that was in our plan.
That would be the east leg that I had mentioned. It goes from Aircap Drive to Jacksonville. Included in the, just the informational cost updates, those last 2 pages.
The last 2?
They lumped everything together in an effort to get an optimal bid on those projects.
So would that be the 61st and Broadway page? I'm not seeing. That's where it's at?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Ben?
Remind me, this is probably a Sean question or D. We allocated $1 million, is that correct? When we did these estimates, was it 9.5 million that was, or $950,000 that we approved in that, or did that street repair plan?
I think it was 900.
900,000,
Like-
so we built I was saying, I thought we built at least a little bit in the reserve to address some of this already.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so that helps at least some of the offset in some of these other ones. But do we know when this was gone through back in January, December timeframe? What was the initial, and I know we're going back and different individuals involved, how we got from the original proposal to where we're at now? It seems like a pretty big, significant difference between recommendations. I'm not a street expert, so this is definitely not my thing, but it seems like this would be something that would be caught in terms of the condition of the road in December. I don't think it's just.
And that's entirely possible. Another possibility, though, too, is roads are continually degrading. And so it is entirely possible that I came on board, we took a look at it, and conditions looked differently than they did back in January.
Okay, and that's fine. This isn't my area of expertise. It just seems like a pretty drastic to double the cost because of change in the condition.
Right, the cost is increasing because of the change in approach, and you're gonna experience that in any road program. The longer you hold off maintenance on a segment, the different approach that you're forced into. And so sometimes those become more costly where they could have been more affordable had you done them just a few years earlier. And so we are changing the proposed process after discovering that East and West Parkview have not been maintained identically through the years. So there have been different processes done on each segment of that roadway.
You mentioned the possibility of doing a 2-inch mill overlay on the East Park View right now is a possibility. Or holding off until 2024 to do the other approach there. I guess my question between inflation costs and such like that, would your recommendation be then to approach East and West the same and do it now versus waiting another year and then we might be forced into the inability to do a 2-inch mill overlay on East and have to pay higher costs because of inflation in '24?
Right, so that's not necessarily my recommendation. When you're dealing with the roadway, there isn't a lot of benefit of doing the same process when that process isn't warranted for a section. And so if we can do the 2-inch mill and overlay and that suffices on East Parkview, that's really optimal. Inflation doesn't tend to affect construction projects as much because your cost of oils are going up and down. And so sometimes you will see a cost savings by waiting just because of the fluctuation in asphalt prices.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Charles?
I drove and looked at those roads on the horseshoes several times this last weekend. Your assessment of the west side, which is what you've got listed here, is, I think you're spot on. That is alligatored so bad that you put an overlay over that, and all you're gonna have is memory cracks flying right back up through it. You know, it's gonna, it just won't work, you know. The east side looked a lot more firm. It had some bad spots, you know, but they were minimal compared to, and most of those were just horizontal cracking, you know. I mean, big cracks that can be fixed with the polymers and stuff, but before it's so overlaid. So I think you're spot on saying that could be done with a 2-inch overlay, you know. And now whether it gets done this year or next year, I think that's an option to you yet. But the process that you're looking at, where they basically mill it completely down and do the procedure, that's being used by the state on highways in different locations. I know they did the highway from Atwood to Colby with that system, you know, and it's quite a process to watch it. And their little train that they had operating on that was about a full block long, you know, because they were doing it all in one action. But now that little extra that you need to do to catch to get clear over to where the east side basically starts. Somehow, I think we need to do that at the same time, the 75,000. I hate taking it out of the sidewalk fund, though, but so that'd be up to someone else to figure out where they get the money. But you think you can, on the sidewalk fund, you think that by using our own labor forces, that we can go ahead and do the same amount of sidewalk that you have planned?
I do, switching it from in-house instead of contracted. We have not gone out for bids on sidewalks yet this year, so I can't promise that, but based on material costs and, you know, a small amount added in for overtime, I think it's possible for our crews to accomplish what we would have had contracted out.
Yeah, I think that sidewalk plan that's a pretty nice deal and needs to be done too. I hope we can get this done anyway.
Thank you, Charles. Brandy?
I agree with Charles that I think we need to do the option 2, where we get half the horseshoe. But I'm not in favor of taking money from the sidewalks and us doing it in-house. I think the time is gonna take staff to do that. We have other things that we need to be focusing on than putting sidewalks in. And didn't we, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we try to do the sidewalks over on this basketball court off Fairchild? And then we had to go back and fix it because it was kinda wonky? I mean, I just feel like that's not our forte, so we shouldn't be going out and trying to build a whole section of sidewalk. If these new numbers that you gave us on the last 2 pages are correct, that means that's $555,640, which means that we have $444,360 left. If this totals $475, we really only need to come up with just a little over $30,000 to fund all this, if we had $1 million originally budgeted for this. So can we not come up with $30,000 and not touch the sidewalk fund? I just think the sidewalk needs to be done by the contractors and have that done correctly. So that's just my thoughts on it.
Well, what we could do is just stick with the original location, the option 1, and then continue with the sidewalks with contractors. That would still allow us to do that. I mean, the one thing I would say is, I feel like if we do that, no matter whatever we're doing over in the horseshoe area, we gotta do the other half next year. We can't just stop. So just keep that in mind. I mean, even the following year. I mean, next year, we may not get that whole other 2/3 or whatever it is. Charles?
I wanted to agree with Brandy on the use of our own labor. I got to thinking on that because I can remember at another time we, in another life, we built a street and used our own city labor. And they built a beautiful street and did a great job on it, but it literally took them the entire summer and most of our crews. And we got so far behind on so many other things that we should have been using our crews on, so that our city manager at that time said, that's a great idea, it worked, but I don't think I'd do it again. I would get it done by someone else so I could use my city crews for what they were basically supposed to be doing. Just a thought.
Ben?
Yeah, I do agree with a lot of what's been said. Option 2 makes sense, and I appreciate Brandy's thought there. I mean, we got $17,500 that we can take from this Ford Fusion we're gonna sell and put it over here to do this stuff. That seems to make sense to me. Might as well use the money somewhere decent. So I would actually be much more in favor of option 2. And now granted, we talk about trusting staff's recommendation, and I'm not going to say one way or another, based upon your recommendation, you feel staff can do it. I would, and I don't want to put you on the spot unfairly. Staff can do a lot of great things because we have a great staff here. Would that be your optimal position, or would you again, it's up to us to help find some of these funding mechanisms too.
Can I answer that question? That's not the optimum. They do a wonderful job, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but right now we are 5 people down in Public Works, and their plate is full. My problem is she will always sit there and say, hey, what do you need? Let us do it.
Yeah.
And so I would make the recommendation, if you want to do option number 2, then do option number 2 and still pay for sidewalks, and we'll find the money.
That, and I appreciate that, because I want that honest feedback, because there's no reason for you to have to go back tomorrow to the office and stress how to figure out how to put 2,000, however many feet of sidewalks you said, in, because we can't find, I'm gonna say 17,000, because I still think we take that 17.5 and put it over there. Actually, he said that was conservative, so let's take his number, bump it up, and use whatever he gets off of that. But that would be my recommendation, is option 2, and find the offset difference over $1 million to make sure that these are done properly. And I'll say the reason that this is different than even previous times that we've come across this is because we're not adding new services or new areas to this. We're trying to cover for an area that we've already promised to deliver on, and it's us making good on that with the excess funds that we have in our budget, so.
Okay. Tom?
I can remember when we did hydraulic. And when it quit raining, and everybody mowed, sidewalk. It took forever to get that thing done. So I'm for option 2. I think we can contract the sidewalks. I mean, if we want to do sidewalks in the city, we need to have people to do it, not the grass guys. What? Okay? But I like to too. And the more we can get done on West Park, the better. I'd like to see that whole portion of the road get done. But if we get half of it done this year and stay on tune and make sure it happens next year.
Okay. Brandy?
I'm going to make a motion to approve option 2 of the amended 2023 street rehabilitation program with the caveat that the 75,000 is found within, or the extra money is found within our funds, not taking it from the sidewalk program.
Okay. And Ben?
Second for discussion, $17,500 off the fusion. That's all I have to say.
Okay. All right, we have a motion by Brandy, seconded by Ben, to proceed with option 2 and leave the sidewalk as it was. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 8, consider resolution delegating authority for determining the necessity and appropriate location for placement of stop and yield signs to the city administrator and chief of police. Doug?
Mayor and council, at the present time, section 14201 of the code authorizes the governing body to determine where stop and yield signs should be, first, whether they're appropriate in certain locations and where they should be put within the city. 7 years ago, I think in recognition that maybe that was something that didn't need to be decided as a governance matter, more staff, the governing body delegated by resolution the authority for determining where to put stop signs in the city to the city administrator and the chief of police. Recently, we have had a question about the appropriateness of placing a yield sign at an intersection and discovered that that was not something that had been delegated. So what you have in front of you is an amended resolution, or a new resolution that adds yield signs to the delegation that the governing body made 7 years ago. Would recommend that the council adopt the resolution.
Ben?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve Resolution 1156, 2023, a resolution delegating the authority for determining the necessity and appropriate locations for the placement of yield and stop signs in the city to the city administrator and the chief of police pursuant to section 14-201 of the municipal code and repealing resolution 923-2016.
Brandy?
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Ben, seconded by Brandy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next to item 9, consider ordinance amending section 11-113 of the municipal code pertaining to the prohibition of prize fighting and wrestling matches and repealing the original of said section 11-113. Doug?
Mayor and council, this matter comes up because of a notification of a proposed amateur boxing match that would be held at Don Hatton's facility sometime later this month. And the question was that something that the city permitted? And what you have in front of you is a section 11-113 of our Uniform Public Offense Code, some of the local regulations that we have. And in subsection A there, it generally prohibits just any fight, any wrestling match, any mixed martial arts, any pugilistic exhibition. And then in subsection B, it sets out several exceptions, which up till now has really made everything just fine. We have wrestling matches, amateur, high school, at Hartman Arena, and you can see there's an exception in there for any event held at Hartman Arena. All matters that are sanctioned by the Kansas State High School Athletics Association are okay. But what we found was that there's a reference in subsection B to a state statute, which has now been repealed. And in fact, there has been established over the last 7 or 8 years, I think, the Kansas Athletic Commission, which sanctions, let's call it martial arts, boxing, wrestling, MMA, all those sorts of things. The one thing they don't sanction, however, is amateur boxing. So then, looking in there, well, would the other exceptions, do any of those apply? The problem there is Golden Gloves Association is the closest, and while that's kind of an organization that's probably well remembered in most of our minds from the past, they really don't sanction things anymore. It's USA Boxing. So what you have in front of you is an amendment to subsection B, which strikes out that reference to the statute and inserts the Kansas Athletic Commission, and then strikes out Golden Gloves Association of America and inserts USA Boxing. And with respect to this specific request and the boxing match, amateur boxing match, which is proposed to be held at Don Hatton later this month, that matter has already been sanctioned by USA Boxing. So if you would adopt this amended ordinance, they would be able to legally have that event occur in our city.
Thank you, Doug. Ben?
So is that Don Hatton, North Wichita, that needs something from Park City?
It is.
Okay, I just wanted to check and make sure there, to understand that. The overall goal of this is correct, and I think it's the right thing to do. So maybe Don Hatton or Park City will help oblige. So I'm gonna make a motion to approve ordinance 1166-2023, an ordinance amending section 11-11(3) of the municipal code of the city of Park City, Kansas, pertaining to the prohibition of prize fighting and wrestling matches, exceptions, penalties, and repealing the original of said section 11-113.
Thank you, Ben. Charlie?
Second.
A motion by Ben, second by Charlie. Tom?
I was gonna second it.
Okay, this will be a roll call vote. Madam Clerk?
Aye.
Sorry. Charlie Davidson.
Aye.
George Glover.
Aye.
Ben Sosetta.
Aye.
Charles Schwenke.
Aye.
Tom Jones. Brandy Bailey.
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0. Item 10, discuss and consider approval of petition for and consent to annexation of property located at 1500 East 77th Street North, Sedgwick County, Kansas, 67147. Sean.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff received a petition for and consent to annexation form for the property owners of 3 parcels located at, and then I give the legal description of each one of the 3 parcels, parcels 1, 2, and 3. It is generally referred to 1500 East 77th Street North. Said tracts contain 3,532,913 square feet, or roughly just over 81 acres. The 2022 appraised value for the properties are $847,900 and an assessed value of $211,975. Staff recommends approval. It does have a contingency on it, though, that it is waiting for approval from the Kansas Racing and Gaming Society for the license. And then once that's granted, if it is granted to this applicant, or that applicant, I should say, then they would want to be annexed into Park City. Staff recommends approval.
Okay. And I want to say, as we mentioned, the contingency in that, I was the one that suggested the contingency when we brought up the idea of the annexation. This is property that was formerly owned by the county, and that's why it was not in the city of Park City. And as we talked about the plan that was presented to us, I suggested that we just put a contingency on there. So, Brandy.
Well, I'm excited about this either way, and so I move to receive and file this petition for annexation. But also, I'd like to direct staff to draft a resolution to support the Ruffin Casino proposal to bring to us next meeting.
We want to do the next meeting, or we want to do the?
We would have to bring it to you on the June 27th meeting. The next meeting is budget workshop, and
Okay,
so June 27th, ma'am?
yes.
Okay.
And Tom.
I'll second it.
Ben.
I think my thought's the same as yours. So maybe I should wait until a little later about the next meeting in its relation to this whole thing. So thank you to Ruffin, though, for taking the step to move forward in terms of becoming part of Park City. If you're selected, or if Ruffin is selected, we look forward to a great partnership together.
Okay. All right, we have a motion by Brandy, seconded by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, we're done. We're on to governing body reports. Do we need an executive session tonight? Okay, governing body reports. Jim?
Anything to report tonight?
Randy?
I have nothing tonight.
Tom?
The lights are blinking.
Didn't take long.
I don't have anything.
I have a question about our next meeting. You said is a workshop. I was under the impression that our next meeting, we were all supposed to have a public hearing
Correct.
for,
The Starbond District establishment?
yes.
That is correct. It is our normal, regular scheduled meeting, so we will start off in the training classroom at 6 o'clock for the budget workshop portion thereof. At 7 o'clock, we'll adjourn into council chambers to hold the public hearing that's been advertised. Upon that, seeing how we already have the letter of approval from the state of Kansas, council can consider adopting an ordinance establishing the Starbond District, and then we'll re-adjourn from this meeting back into the training classroom and finish up the budget workshop.
Okay, that makes sense. I also want to.
It's going to be an interesting night, but yes.
There you go. I also want to pay tribute to our military men and women. Today is D-Day, 79 years ago. They stormed the beaches of Normandy. Just last month, I think I said this last time too, just last month, though, I had the opportunity to be at Dover. And as part of that, though, I got to be on one of the C-17s that actually flew on that D-Day mission. And you can see on the flooring, I didn't take the picture of it, but you can see on the flooring where they were actually shot at and the bullets came through and they've been patched over. They actually were able to have donated to them one of the diaries of one of the individuals on that D-Day invasion. So thank you again. Just by way of D-Day's remembrance, I think it's always good to recognize our military men and women who fight and protect our country.
Thank you, Ben. George?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody who came out to our Park City Serve Day. We were able to help quite a few folks. I want to also thank New Anthem Church for hosting the event. We're finishing touches now on our Park City Fishing Derby coming up on June 17th. Mark your calendars, 9 till 11. We're finishing up on that, and we'll have more details to come, but we're encouraged. Got a lot of positive comments from folks. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Charlie?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Something I want to comment on, I had some comments or some questions about, many people got their election or their voting card to polling places. And there is an additional polling place will be in Park City, and that's probably a result of our new election commissioner. I think, did I say that right? Is it commissioner? That is working to try to reduce the wait time and the long lines at voting and polling places. So Obviously, you guys saw it on the consent agenda tonight, but City Hall will still be a location, but the other one will be the Word of Life Church down on 53rd Street. So hopefully, this will put us in a better spot to be a little more efficient. It's obviously a good problem to have that we have a lot of people voting, so that's fantastic. But just want to answer some questions on that. And with that, that's all I have. I would entertain a non-debatable motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And Jim?
Second.
Ben, seconded by Brandy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Yeah, he asked me about it too. That's a good point.
I'm sure that